Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 1, which consists of me myself, Ala Zulaika binti Muhammad Rizwan, Muhammad Syahrul Nabil bin Yusuf, Anis Fazlina binti Badrul Hisham, and Nurin Vanessa binti Zakaria. And we are the assistant engineers in OLFC Energy Power Plant. Generally, in OLFC Energy Power Plant, we mainly produce energy for chemical complexes. And as for today, we have chosen to elaborate more on the heat exchangers, specifically the shell and tube heat exchangers. Moving on to our company background, OLFC Energy Power Plant has been designing and fabricating shell and tube heat exchangers for our customers' production plant since the year 2000. Our design expertise and use of high alloy materials provide customers with a durable, low-maintenance heat exchangers and a return on investment (ROI) that exceeds their expectations. Creating thermal design that are an optimal fit for a unique operating environment and application, we can fulfill many of your needs with our off-the-shelf heat exchangers. When you have a unique requirements, our expert designers and engineers deliver highly customized solutions. So generally, heat exchangers is a system that used to transfer heat in between two or more fluids, either to cool the fluid down or to heat them up. So next, I will pass to the next presenter to elaborate more on our heat exchangers, mainly the shell and tube heat exchangers type.
A shell and tube heat exchanger design is a type of heat exchanger. One fluid runs through the tubes and another fluid flows over the tubes to transfer heat between the two fluids. It is the most commonly used type of heat exchanger in oil refineries and other large chemical processes, and it is best suited for high-pressure applications. This type of heat exchanger, as the name implies, is made up of a shell with a bundle of tubes inside it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syahrul Nabil bin Yusuf, and I will be covering on the operating principle of shell and tube heat exchanger. The working of a shell and tube heat exchanger is a fairly simple one. You got a fluid that is to be cooled or heated flowing inside the multiple tube channels, and you have the other fluid flow with distinct temperature difference flowing inside the shell. So one fluid flows inside the tubes and the other through the shell. While flowing, they exchange the heat, which means the cold fluid gains the heat from the hot fluid. So one cold fluid enters the shell inlet nozzle and comes out of the outlet nozzle as a hot fluid. Obviously, the other fluid will become cold in the outlet than in the inlet. The heat transfer in a shell and tube heat exchanger is determined by the exposed surface area that is decided by the number of thermally conductive metal tubes. So the alternating flow of the fluid in the shell that is in contact with the tube channels is where the heat exchanging process takes place. the fluid flow inside the shell and tube heat exchanger can be parallel flow or cross flow. So next, in order to increase the heat transfer between the fluids, you can either increase the number of tube channels, which will further increase the number of exposed surface area, which will also further increase the heat exchanging process. And you can also increase the turbulence in the tube and shell side flow by installing baffles or tubulator, which will also further increase the heat exchanging process. Now I will be passing the next one to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurin Vanessa Binti Zakaria. So we are moving on to the advantage and disadvantage of shell and tube heat exchanger. As we know, shell and tube heat exchanger are a basic but effective design consisting of a bundle of small tubes and within a large cylinder. So the concept of which have been around for well over 100 years, as example, steam engine boiler. Because to their simplicity and versatility, they can be produced at a low cost, even in small quantities. Because most designs are easy to disassemble, they are suitable for applications that require frequent maintenance and service, such as in maritime setting. So the advantage of shell and tube heat exchanger, the first one is high heat transfer coefficient. The threaded tube is a high efficiency heat transfer element combined with internal and external threads made of copper and stainless steel with high thermal conductivity. The threaded tube heat exchanger made of it has little fluid resistance. A strong tubular flow is formed, which greatly improves the heat release coefficient inside and outside the tube. The second one is compact structure. So this product has a large heat transfer area per unit volume. The total heat transfer coefficient is high, so the occupied area is greatly reduced and saving materials and space. So next, this shell and tube heat exchanger not easy to scale due to the special concave convex structure of the threaded pipe. The multi-flow layer and the rotary scoring effect are generated inside and outside the pipe, and the heat stretching and shrinking of the pipe. The impurities will not remain inside and outside the pipe wall. So it is not easy to scale. Long-term operation effect is good. Next, heat exchanger also not easy to leak. The sealing circumference of this product is short. The thick thread of the threaded pipe is similar to the expansion joint, and it has its own compensation ability. The heat exchanger has small thermal stress and is not easy to leak. So the last one is easy installation. These are two types of horizontal and vertical heat exchangers in this series, which are easy to install in different positions. Moving on to the disadvantage of shell and tube heat exchanger. The first one is heat exchanger effectiveness is less as compared to plate type of heat exchanger. Second one is capacity of tube cooler cannot be expanded, and it requires more space in contrast with plate heat exchanger. This heat exchanger also not suitable for volatile. And the last one is for maintenance and cleaning are troublesome because tube cleaning is tough and fouling is always a concern when considering the total heat transfer coefficient. This necessitates the cleaning of both the shell and tubes on a regular basis. If the pitch is triangular, cleaning tubes may be more challenging to clean.
So finally, let's move on to the example of industry and the types of application for shell and tube heat exchanger. Since shell and tube heat exchanger is a common type of heat exchanger used worldwide, it is vastly used in various types of industries, such as the refinery and petrochemical industries, as well as the fertilizer industries, oil and gas industries, and the chemical industries. They are used all over the plant to aid for different types of processes required in the plant. And not to forget that power plants industry also use this type of heat exchanger, namely OLFC Energy Power Plant Company itself. We are using this type of heat exchanger due to the benefit that comes along with it, as mentioned by my colleague before this. With that being said, I think it sums up the basic things that you need to know on the type of this type of heat exchanger, namely Shell and tube heat exchanger. So thank you for spending your time listening to this presentation.